Hey guys, I did post a lot of videos last night, so I thought I'd do maybe a couple more today, and then I'll probably back off for a little while. This movie that I am about to review, it's an original, there's no sequel, well, there's 3 sequels, but I am a huge fan of the director of these movies. I have just about almost every single one of his, and this guy is the master of suspense. He's a true genius in cinema, and no one will ever match this man. The movie I am about to review is Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Now, I do have this one on DVD, but it's in like a collector's set, and I don't want to get it out. I'll show you the back there. This film blew me away. My mom talked about it all the time, but she never said I could watch it, and she never said I couldn't watch it. So, I had seen, North by Northwest, Vertigo, Rear Window, all those. So I thought I'd watch Psycho. I remember being scared to death at the very end of this movie. I was so scared. And it's based on the book by Robert Bloch. And this film is just a true classic. I mean, I don't know what you could say about this film that hasn't been said already. This was this really was one of Alfred Hitchcock's last great films. I mean, he did make The Birds and Marnie in that order after Psycho, and those were good, but Topaz was his worst box office failure. And then he jumps back into making Frenzy, which was a huge success. That's like one of the films where the Hitchcock touch came back. Then his last film, The Family Plot. So he didn't make that many films after Psycho. And when you think of Alfred Hitchcock, you think of Psycho. And if you don't know what Psycho's about, it's about Marion Crane. She's in a it's like a secret relationship, and she wants to break it off, and tell everybody. And she has this secretary job at this, and I don't really necessarily know where she works, but this guy comes in with $100,000, or no, $40,000, sorry, and he's gonna buy a house for his girlfriend, for his daughter, and her boss, Marion Crane's boss, tells her to take this money and put it in the bank. But instead, she steals the money, goes to her house, packs up all of her things, and drives down to her boyfriend so they can get married. And it's a busy night, and she stops at this motel for a rest. She meets Norman Bates, who is a handsome, attractive-looking man. He's, very abused by his mother, and Norman Bates persuades her to give the money back and to, just turn herself in. And she feels so good about this that she decides to take a shower, and then she gets murdered in the shower. And and then we are focused on Norman Bates, from him covering up his mother's crime, and him, just trying to protect his mother throughout the entire movie. And that's basically the plot of the movie. It's, I mean, it's probably pretty obvious what happens in the movie. I mean, I'm not gonna give it. If you haven't seen it, I'm not gonna, give it away or say it. But Anthony Perkins, the guy who plays Norman Bates, he was perfect for this role. The remake with Vince Vaughn, he already looks psycho. I mean, he already looks like demented. And there was 3 other sequels: Psycho 2, 3, and then Psycho 4, The Beginning. Psycho 2 was a decent sequel. I mean, it won't live up to the original, but it's the best sequel out of the three made. Because, Norman Bates comes back after 22 years in an insane asylum, and these things start happening to him again. Psycho 3 was directed by Anthony Perkins, his first director's job. I don't even know why that one was made. It was terrible. Psycho 4 is a prequel. It takes place before the original Psycho, and it tells you like how Norman Bates, like how he became Norman Bates. And that one isn't that bad either, but with Psycho, it has Patricia Hitchcock is in it. She's one of the secretaries. It's Hitchcock's daughter. Again, Anthony Perkins. Janet Leigh's in it. She was in The Fog. Um, Vera Miles. She was in The Wrong Man. And Martin Balsam. He was in the screen test with Tippi Hedren for The Birds. John Gavin, who plays the boyfriend. And I mean, this movie is just really suspenseful. I mean, I don't necessarily think this is Hitchcock's most suspenseful film. I personally think it's Rear Window, but this probably will be the one that he's best remembered for. I have read the book. I really only read it because I was a huge fan of the movie. I thought I might as well read the book. Maybe it'll be decent. And in the book, Norman Bates is a fat, middle-aged man, like in his 40s. He's mean, wears these thick glasses, and he's just not lovable. And Marion Crane is Mary Crane in the book. And instead of getting stabbed to death in the shower, she gets her head decapitated in the shower. And it's, it's relatively the same story. Um, I don't want to give the book away because I personally think the book in some ways is better than the movie because it gives you more background information. But this book was hard to find. I mean, I looked in our libraries around us. I believe I looked in three. And finally, I just gave up and I bought it on the internet off eBay, and I read it, and it's pretty good. Now, Robert Bloch, if you're a fan of William Castle, he wrote the movie Straight Jacket with Joan Crawford, and that was a decent movie. Maybe I'll review that later. But see Psycho. This is Alfred Hitchcock's masterpiece. I mean, he has made some great films, but this one he will be best remembered for. I'll give this one a 5 out of 5 because it's sheer terror, suspense, and it's one of those movies where you don't really need to see any gore for it to be successful. So see Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho if you haven't seen it already.